Here we go. We are back again. Hello, brilliant beauties and wonderfully reformed perfectionists. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen. Always excited to be in the space with you. Okay, where we left off last episode, assuming that this releases in order because I'm not always the person directing that. We were talking about fears and narratives and we didn't get into the terms around self-fulfilling prophecies specifically, but it definitely is relevant, especially when you've, said something specific about yourself, who you are, who you're not, what you do, what you don't. And then those things are absolutely the box that you basically create for yourself. And the fear of breaking through that box that you created for yourself and what that looks like in the process of doing it and just being able to talk yourself through the reality that you're even in it in the first place. So today, I would really love in this moment for us to just have a brief conversation around the hypocrisy of it all, especially when you are considered an expert. Let's just push aside the terms of guru and all of that. But you're an expert in your own right. You have done the thing. You've put in your 10,000 plus hours, probably many times over in a way that you are what I would consider a multi-mastered expert. I definitely consider myself that. I have mastered many different levels of expertise where some people will take that one and that is their expertise. I have stacked on those things because I see the thread. As we talked about in a few episodes ago, there is a string of thoughts that happens. There's a string of expertise where you can stack because it's all connected to the root and allows whatever is supposed to grow out of that to grow. One of the things that has been coming up in so many of the conversations that I'm having, both private conversations and private advisory as a balance and relationship advisor, right? So it's very holistic work that I do, personal, professional, leadership development, spiritual development, like it's all within the house of a balance and relationship advisor, which is why I also don't limit myself. And this is no disrespect to anyone who stands on business with being a coach. Coaching is one small part of what I do. It is one of the tools, one of the ingredients of the success that I use and kind of my elixir of supporting whoever it is that I'm working with at that time. Just like the clinical aspect is one small thing. The metaphysical aspect is a much bigger thing, as much more foundational, but they're all just tools that ultimately, help me as the advisor see which tool that I have already mastered I can grab and support and maybe mix together to help someone be in this space of self-actualization, this space of wholeness, this space of peace that they're ultimately trying to create, which can look like fun and intimacy, amplifying intimacy and all that. And sometimes it looks like snot, tears, and all the things because it can be guttural work. It is an adventure, to say the least. And in that, I'm hearing both in those private conversations as well as the conversations and what I call my tea time conversations, where I'm just connecting and reconnecting with people, getting to know them, creating new relationships as a relationship advisor, right? Not all those people will become clients. Not all those people should be clients. Sometimes I become client, right? Of whatever it is that they have mastered and the way that they can serve and support me and the great work, the impact and imprinting work that I'm trying to do in the world. But one of the themes that I'm hearing is this hypocrisy around evolving and expanding. So one of the first things that I just want to tackle and highlight is it is okay to acknowledge that where you have arrived in this very moment is where you should be. This very moment, this particular hour. At the time of this recording, it is 12:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? At 12:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am more than okay with where I have arrived in this moment. That does not mean that I need to limit where I can evolve or limit seeing past that evolution to where I can expand, just personally. You add in business and all that just explodes the opportunities like exponentially, but just personally, just accepting who I am in this particular moment of time, on this particular day and hour. some people are challenged with where they have arrived. And sometimes you're in a challenging moment, even if you've accepted the arrival at a previous time, but maybe now you're not accepting it because things just don't look like what you wanted it to look like, needed it to look like. And that's okay. It's okay to be disappointed in the outcome in this moment without being disrespectful to yourself, because you do need to be kind to yourself. It is really hard to be creative, innovative, problem solving, dope, brilliant, all the things if you are being quite honestly nasty to you. That is very, very hard. And I tell people all the time, you should talk to you the way you would want someone to talk to someone you love, right? If you would not allow and would in fact cut somebody for talking to someone you love the way that you talk to yourself, you might need to reframe how you're doing that. Just my little personal opinion around it, right? I'm professional, adding 25 years of all that. Do better with talking to yourself correctly. In that, I'm seeing some people move from one level of expertise, totally okay, because, right, you can be multi-mastered. Either they're moving completely into a new level where they would say there is a complete separation. It's not a stacking, like how I'm a human behavior expert at the end of everything. If I want to be more niche, everything for me comes down to relationships. If I want to be even more niche, it's the personal relationships that we have with ourselves that impact the way that we show up in the world and in all the other ways, right? If I wanted to like really, really anchor it down, it's all about the wellness point, the wellness factor of that. But some people might move from, sales, being fantastic at sales, to maybe they move into wellness, or, a niche within the niche of wellness, or they move from sales into creating lamps, right? Like, and not necessarily the selling part of the lamps, but maybe they're now a maker. They're now designing something. They're putting their hands in something. Maybe they started a bakery, right? Like, you can totally not stack and still use transferable parts of your skills to those places that you move to, which has its own space of fear that you have to navigate with adding this new, complete different industry and all the different nuances to it. But some of the hypocrisy in it, and I think I might need to break this into a couple of different episodes, because hypocrisy is really huge, especially in the entrepreneurial small business founder world of things. Some people are literally in this space where they're like, okay, I don't do sales anymore. And when they were in sales, they could not appreciate or respect the people who were, let's say, in wellness. They thought, oh, that's woo-woo. That's not for me. That's not really making your money. All the things, like if you want to make money, be in sales, and all the things, right? And it's okay on some levels that you just didn't know. You just didn't know what you didn't know. All right. It's never okay to be disrespectful. It's never okay to be rude about someone else's industry that you don't understand and you don't understand the benefits. But often what happens is when that person was like in sales, or they were the cake maker or the shoe maker or the lamp maker or whatever, which is amazing, brilliant. I need lamps, I need cake, I need shoes, right? Like all the things. When they were in it, they were also in a space where they not only couldn't see the wellness portion in this example, and you can put other things here, you're in IT, you can't see the life science portion, right? Whatever. They didn't know until they hit a breaking point in their own life how important that thing was, right? When you're in sales and then life is happening and all the kinds of things are happening and your world is crashing, you're like, oh, I get why wellness is so important, because now I realize that without it, I can't do the thing that I'm really good at. And again, you can apply the analogy across the board, right? With that, when they now come over to, let's say, wellness, it's easy for me to use that example because it's the space that I'm in. When they come over to wellness, it's also not okay to feel like you are better than the people who have been doing it much longer than you, because now you have you've decided to embrace it. And those people don't matter anymore because now you have decided to claim this space. And there's just so much of a hypocrisy, because then those people often will now move on from that and become the cake maker, and then look at sales and wellness as not as important, and think that they can make cakes better than whoever the most brilliant cake makers are in the world, even the ones that aren't as popular, but they're well known to whoever they need to be well known to in that. There's a lot of hypocrisy that comes up. And I'm seeing this in my professional space of people not only trying to come into this space, but people who kind of floated through this space. See it all the time. The business coach who decided to do health coaching, who decided to do personal development, who decided to do leadership development, who decided to go into organizational wellness or DE&I, right? And there's nothing wrong with following your passions. I'm a huge believer in often chipping through at your passions is what allows you to discover your purpose. Huge believer in it. Like it's part of a methodology that I teach called the Joy Map method, right? Like it's important, but you have to be mindful of how you're showing up in that process and in that way. Because as we all know, people remember how you make them feel. And I was just having a private session with someone the other day who literally had a partner in the space who didn't do what they did at the time they partnered because they had opposite skills that really blended well together. Now that partner wants to and has understood the assignment and understands the power in what this young woman does. It's actually in a technology space, an IT technology space. And now that she understands it, she's literally trying to tell her how to do what she's been doing for years. And not that you can't add value, not that you can't have learned a new way or innovative way or come across a different modality and want to share that. That's okay. But she's doing it in a very aggressive, I know better than you, you're outdated because of the way that you're doing it way. And it's making the partner feel dismissed and belittled. And that hypocrisy in and of itself is a huge challenge and a huge problem. So I ask you, keeping this version of the hypocrisy conversation brief, because, oh my God, I could go into the hypocrisy of entrepreneurs being disrespectful to those in corporate and people in corporate being disrespectful to entrepreneurs until they decided they want to also break out of corporate and vice versa. When the reality is we need each other. As an entrepreneur, I'm trying to get that corporate contract, girl. I need my corporate friends to, make sure that they can highlight all the things that I'm doing and say, oh, you need someone to do luxury wellness retreat design. Naketa is your girl from Think Pro Balance Relationship Management Institute or whatever, and vice versa. When they're in corporate and they're looking for something to do, sometimes we train them as certified success architects, and now they have a big leg up in how they can do their entrepreneurship, right? Like whatever version of that they're doing. Like we need each other. So I will leave that rant alone for another episode, probably down the line, because I'm very passionate about that and the challenges of knocking each other on the floor just because that's not the seat that you're sitting in at that time. Different conversation. But for this one, I just want you to be mindful of not only how you're showing up in your expertise and your newfound level of multi-mastered brilliance and all of it, but how you are literally showing up to the people that maybe you were dismissive of before, and recognize that that's something you have to look at yourself for, do some forgiveness work around. You might even need to apologize, depending on how egregious you are, like real talk. Like in that example of the partners, that person still hasn't apologized yet. So it's really hard for them to continue to work together. And when they dissolve their business partnership, which unfortunately is happening, and I say unfortunate because you never want people to break up unnecessarily, and it's not unnecessary, but technically they could get back into a healing space if they both wanted to. They just don't both want to. Well, now you've literally burned a bridge that you might actually need. I put money on the person who is newly mastering or coming into a space of mastery expertise. I put money on her needing the person that she's dismissing at some point in the future. I put money on it, whether she needs her credibility because the people that she's now trying to network with are actually people she met through that person. And the only reason they're meeting with her is because of that person's credibility. Like, just be really careful, y'all. That's all I'm going to say about that. Be real careful how you treat people in these streets, especially professionally, but also personally. Now I have to go because I have a tea call coming up. And again, I promised that I would keep it honest and keep it real with you. And I really do have to take a bio break transition because I am over 40 and this bladder is not going to hold on like they're used to. But in the meantime, I want you to continue to rebel against the rush as always. Embrace a little bit more of that laziness so you can work less and trust your inner brilliance more. I will see you on the other side of the moon.